Hey, yo, welcome in, everybody. Happy to have you here on the Basketball Bulletin. I'm Trevor Lane. Want to jump on for a few moments while I had some time this afternoon, talk a little bit about the injuries around the NBA. Obviously, top of mind, the Lakers injury report just came out, and oh my gosh, is it lengthy. Little crazy what's going on around the league right now. In addition to, of course, the other off-court things that are happening around the NBA currently, but injuries certainly robbing us of some really exciting players, even though the start of the NBA season, I think, in terms of on the court, has been phenomenal. If you guys haven't done so yet, please make sure that you do hit the subscribe button right here over on the Basketball Bulletin. Happy to see you guys here talking some hoops. All right, let's just get right into it. This is the Lakers injury report right now. And obviously, we talk about more than just the Lakers here on this channel, but this is the Lakers injury report. Luka Doncic, Jackson Hayes, LeBron James, Maxi Kleber, Marcus Smart, Adu Thiero, and Gabe Vincent. That's 7 players. 7 players. Josh asking, Trevor, are you live tonight? Yep. Yeah. Look, most of the Lakers will not be there tonight. I will be around. I'll be live during the game, post game, all that kind of normal stuff. Yep. Be around. But that's literally half the team. There's 14 players on the roster, on the regular roster. That leaves 7 players remaining. 7 players. And I would like to say that that's unique, but here we are early in the NBA season, and there are other teams that have a lot of injuries too. This is not just a Lakers specific thing. This is for, again, my team, the Lakers. This is what they've got left. These are the guys who can actually play. Reaves, LaRavia, Vando, Rui, Ayton. That's it. In my mind, that's it. That's the end. Done. There's 5 guys. Everybody else is not a rotation player at the NBA level. These guys are going to get opportunities to prove otherwise, but they have 5 actual. This is an NBA rotation player at minimum. Everybody else is not. Bronny James, Dalton Connect, the closest to being a legit rotation player. We saw him be a legit rotation player last season, just has not been good up to this point. Koloko, Mannion, Smith, those are the 2-way contracts. That's crazy. When we look at this, that is crazy. When you think about how many guys are out injured. Mamadou with the super chat, thank you, appreciate the super chat, said, I think injuries are going to determine the West standings. Yeah, and we've been talking about that the standings in the Western Conference are going to be very, very tight. We're expecting a lot of parity between these teams in the West, and injuries will likely determine it. But we also saw earlier today, the Minnesota Timberwolves announced Anthony Edwards is out. Now, a little interesting, Minnesota said they're going to reevaluate in a week. Shams Charania said he's out 2 weeks. They're probably saying the same thing. We talk about reevaluate in a week. Hopefully he's good. Then a few days to ramp up again, make sure he's okay, and then back. So probably back in about 2 weeks or so. But nonetheless, the Wolves lose Anthony Edwards. The Lakers are without Luka Doncic for at least a week here. And then Dave McMenamin talking about how he's probably going to be good next week. But you look around the NBA, look at this. I see you guys submitting some trades and stuff in the chat. We'll get into those in just a moment. But look at the injury report around the NBA right now. Holy moly. And ESPN, by the way, isn't always the best for being up to date on injuries and things of that nature. But Zach Reese-Sachet was out. The Hawks' most recent game, Kristaps Porzingis, always a little scary when he's dealing with an illness. Jason Tatum out for the season. Haywood Highsmith still out. Igor Jemin is out. Joman, I think is how you say it. Zaire Williams out. Brandon Miller's day-to-day right now was ruled out of Sunday's game against the Wizards, so he didn't play there. Kobe White is out. Josh Giddey, questionable for tonight. Zach Collins is out, has a wrist fracture. Lonzo Ball out for injury management. Darius Garland still out, has not played yet this season. Max Strus still out. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford are out for the Mavs. That means that Anthony Davis has to play center again because the Mavs, despite all their depth in the middle, don't really have another player they could turn to Dwight Powell, I suppose. But then you've got Dante Exum out. So AD's going to have to slide over and play center again. Kyrie Irving still out. Look at these names. I mean, these are good players. Jaden Ivey is out. He's great, but missed a bunch of last season. Karis LeVert is questionable. Al Horford sat out and dealing with the toe issue. D'Anthony Melton still has not made his debut. Dorian Finney-Smith has not made his debut for the Rockets. Fred VanVleet is out for the season. Look at the Pacers. Like, you want to feel bad for the Lakers? Look at the Pacers. Andrew Nembhard out for yesterday's game, Sunday. Benedict Mathurin out for yesterday's game, Sunday against the Wolves. Furphy out. Obi Toppin, hamstring injury. Hamstring injuries are always trouble, right? Those are tricky. As the Wolves are finding out with Ant. TJ McConnell out, got hurt in preseason. Tyrese Halliburton, they missed the entire season, Achilles injury. The Pacers, hardly anybody left. The Clippers have some injuries. Brad Beal was out. The Clippers won, by the way, against the Blazers yesterday. Here's the Lakers, one that we just looked at. Look at the Grizzlies. Oh, Vince Williams, Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., Brandon Clark, Zach Edey. Those are all rotation players for them. Those are all rotation guys, all out. Miami, who, by the way, we need to take a deeper look at Miami's offense. They're changing some interesting stuff. They're doing zigging while everybody else is zagging. Some interesting things going on in Miami. But Terry Rozier, well, we all know what's going on there. But Tyler Hero, look at the Bucks. Look at the Bucks. Kevin Porter Jr. out. The only guy they had that could really run the point guard spot, he's out. Anthony Edwards out. Zion Williamson, now dealing with a foot issue. Let's not start that. Kevon Looney, who they just got, he's out. They got him over the summer. DeJounte Murray, Achilles. Mitch Robinson dealing with stuff. Look at the Thunder, the defending champs. Look at this. Alex Caruso has a concussion. Isaiah Joe out. Jalen Williams out. Hasn't played yet. Chet Holmgren, questionable. Look at Topic dealing with some stuff there, right? Orlando, Mo Wagner, still trying to recover. Paul George, still out for the 76ers. Jared McCade, out. Joel Embiid, out for Monday's game. Suns, no Dylan Brooks. Right now, maybe he'll be good to go tonight. But Jalen Green, out. Robert Williams is going to spend some time with the G League side to ramp up. So that's exciting, but he can't stay healthy. Scoot Henderson has been out. Dame, of course, out for the season. Nick Clifford, who looks so good in preseason, out. Hamstring. Keegan Murray, out. UCL ligament, his thumb. Look at the Spurs. No Luke Cornett. No Kelly Olynyk. Lindy Waters. De'Aaron Fox. Haven't played yet this season. Hamstring. Jeremy Sohan. Sprained wrist. The Jazz have a few. Bilal Coulibaly with the Wizards. Day to day. My goodness. This is a lot. This is a lot on the injury front around the NBA. And once again, we've seen some incredible basketball. And the silver lining, of course, is that every time there's an injury, that creates an opportunity for others to step in. Like right now, we talk about, I know a lot of Lakers fans come in here. We talk about the Lakers. Like, okay, here's an opportunity for Dalton Knecht to step up and show that he can still be the guy that he was last year, the guy that we haven't seen since last year. But there's opportunity because somebody's got to play. You can't play five guys the entire game. I mean, I guess if anybody was going to do that, it would be JJ Redick. He played five guys for an entire half, but Dalton Knecht probably going to play 25, 30 minutes tonight because who else is going to? Nobody. You don't have anybody else to turn to. So that's opportunity for some of these players to show that they've got something. You look at what AJ Mitchell's been doing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's been capitalizing on the opportunity that's available because of all the other injuries. He's been very impressive. So that's the silver lining, is that this opens a door for other players to step in and show that they can play at the NBA level, show what they can do, and get more minutes than they typically would. But still, Zion, Ant, LeBron, Luka, Tyrese, Tatum, I mean, on and on. Kobe White, Mitch Robinson, start going into some of the role players that, like, this is a lot. This is a lot of players around the NBA that are right now not available due to injury. And we are most teams have played 3, not quite 4 games so far. That is it's been a lot of fun. There's been fun basketball. This is a rough start on the injury front around the league. Greenlight Transport said jammed finger and a bruise. What happened to men? Yeah, I mean, my buddy Jason Timpf made the point. I was texting with him a little bit. he was disappointed that Luka is not playing due to a sprained finger and a bruise, and a contusion in his leg. And I'm sure we'll talk about it on the Lakers Collective on Thursday when we have that live show. But yeah, if this were the playoffs, yeah, Luka, I'm sure he's playing. But this is, teams are very worried about any kind of little injury right now early on becoming a long-term thing and then missing more time. So they'd rather deal with the pain of not having the player for a week or two right now than more severe pain later on down the road. I think that's the thought process. That's certainly the thought process for the Lakers with Luka. And also keep in mind that teams tend to be the ones deciding whether or not a player is going to play. It's not the player. And most of the time we turn and we put it on the player and we say, oh, that guy's weak, right? Why isn't that guy playing? Typically it's the team that says, this is who's playing, this is who's not. We make the decisions. Now, I think it's also fair to point out, though, if it's a superstar like Luka, where the team is being built around him, he probably has the ability to say, hey, guys, let's be real. I sprained my finger. I'm okay. I'm going to play. Kobe played with a splint on his finger for most of a season. Like, I can play. Obviously, that's not taking place here. They're going to sit him out. But, you know, I get why the Lakers would want to be careful with Luka, and why the Wolves are going to be careful with Ant, and the Pelicans are going to be careful with Zion, and on and on and on. But there's a lot of injuries. This is a lot. Teams want to be careful. They don't want to lose guys for the long haul. But in the Western Conference playoff race, this could wind up mattering. Everything is so convoluted right now. It's because we're only a few games in. You can't take too much away from the standings as they currently sit. I mean, the Chicago Bulls and the Philadelphia 76ers are the top two seeds in the Eastern Conference with only 2 games played each. Is that the way this is ultimately going to shake out? No, of course not. The Spurs are the number 1 seed right now in the West, 3-0 and a point differential of plus 16. Is that the way we expect that to sort out? No, but of course it's a nice start for San Antonio. Meanwhile, the Houston Rockets are 0-2 and are in next to last place in the Western Conference with only the Pelicans right there with them. The Rockets, the Brooklyn Nets are getting sacrificed to the Houston Rockets tonight. So that's not going to stay that way for long. So we can't read too much into the standings as they currently sit. But if you go and you look at last year, now that you can see an 82 game sample size, and again, teams have changed and everything, but 2 games separated the 3 seed from the 8 seed in the West. That's a big jump with just 2 games. So when we're talking about these injuries piling up, could you flip what would have otherwise been a win into a loss because of an injury here? An injury right now, and could it matter at the end of the season? Absolutely. Absolutely. Given how tight we expect the West to be, this absolutely could matter. I have Hawks Lakers tickets, and if Luka does not play, I'll be pissed. I was just looking at that game because I'm trying to decide if I'm going to make the trek and go to that one. But that is, what is that again? The 8th? I think you'll be okay. It's sounding more like kind of mid next week he's back, if not next weekend. I think you'll be okay. Hawks Lakers. That next weekend. I think you'll be all right. It's not the second night of a back-to-back or anything either. In fact, they play the Spurs on the 5th and they don't play again till the Hawks on the road on the 8th. I think he'll play. I think he'll be back by that one. Gabe said, load management is getting out of control. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some people teams trying to be extra careful with players. And it's funny is the NBA has actually put out their studies about why load management doesn't work. And it doesn't actually prevent injuries for players. And they've actually suggested that players aren't training enough during the summer. And that's really the problem, that players are not training enough over the summer. Then they go from 0 to 100 so fast because the season starts up and their bodies aren't prepared for it. And that is, according to the NBA, the reason why we see so many injuries hitting the league. Now, at least that's what they've said in years past. That said, of course, the NBA is going to be biased in that report because the NBA doesn't want star-level players sitting out. They don't want fans upset. They want fans paying high prices for their tickets, which, by the way, my wife was just looking. She's going down the list of Hawks tickets, and she's like, this game, all the games in front of the Lakers game and behind the Lakers game, she's like, $18, $18 to get in the door, $15, $13, $18, $96, $18, $18. Guess which one is $96 to get in the door? It's Lakers, Hawks. But that's it, right? You've got the NBA making the case load management doesn't work. Teams don't want to be without their stars because basketball is such a star-driven sport, and superstars ultimately matter so much in terms of what your success or failure as a club. And so teams want to be careful with these guys that they've invested millions upon millions of dollars right now. All right, let's go here. Oh, thank you. Hey, Trevor, just want to say enjoy your content. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. All right, let's go here. Said, trade Luka or Austin Reaves. Both on the same team is redundant. Both get max contracts. Then you can't build around and don't want Kobe and Jordan. You want Jordan and Pippen. I mean, Austin coming off of a 51-point game. I think the Lakers, we've talked about this, but I think the Lakers want to see what the ultimate fit can be with Luka and Austin. Now, do the Lakers have the ideal team? Like if you sat down and said, we're going to build a team around Luka and Austin, what are the pieces you would want around them? Do the Lakers have this army of super switchy, athletic, hyper athletic glue guys that can hit the three and defend multiple positions? And that's what their teams, no, they don't. They don't have the type of roster that you would ideally want to build around those two. But I do think that the Lakers are going to give this a shot and see what it looks like with Luka and Austin out there on the floor before they get to an extreme of, okay, we're going to have to trade somebody or we let Austin walk away in free agency or whatever. Let's face it, they're not trading Luka. That's not happening. He is their star. They're building around for the foreseeable future. So they're not trading Luka. If they do get to a point where they say, yeah, this simply cannot work, then maybe they look to trade Austin Reaves. But yeah, like they held Austin out of the Luka trade, right? I know Nico Harrison isn't held in high regard, but to me, it doesn't have the ring of truth that in a Luka Doncic trade, Nico didn't even bring up Austin Reaves. Now, could the Lakers have negotiated him out of that trade? That appears to be what happened. So if the Lakers were pulling Austin Reaves out of a Luka Doncic trade, like they're not going to be super eager to move on from Austin Reaves either. I think they want to see if this can work. I know on paper why there are concerns for it not working, and specifically because of the roster construction as it currently sits right now. Obviously, will that be the case into the future? Maybe they can put together the perfect pieces around those guys, but it'll depend on what their flexibility looks like moving forward and what they're able to do. But I just don't see the Lakers in the next month, like 2 months, getting to a point where they say, nope, this can never work. Let's trade Austin Reaves. And even then, what the offers would be right now with free agency coming for him next summer, probably not going to be what the Lakers would want unless there's a team out there that feels very comfortable that he would re-sign with them in free agency. That's where maybe this shifts. And of course, the Lakers, they'd be looking to get like the guy to put next to Luka Doncic. I mean, you'd be talking, can you go get into a Giannis conversation? Can you get into a conversation for one of the really good high-level wings around the NBA? Can you get into something like that? And I don't know that those teams are going to be looking to move those players. So that's where it gets challenging as well for the Lakers. Logistically, it's not easy to try to make that kind of move. I do agree that on paper, they don't have the team structured the way it needs to be around Luka and Austin, but also the kinds of players you need around Luka and Austin are the kinds of players that every team needs. Unfortunately, every team in the NBA, if you ask them, they can have an army of wings, and you ask any team in the NBA, what do you need? They're going to say wings. They're going to say switchy defensive wings that can shoot the three. And ideally, now that we're getting further along in the 3-and-D process, the 3-and-D growth cycle here, it's guys that can shoot the three and create a little bit off the bounce. That's what teams are looking for. So much easier said than done to create a roster around those guys. The Lakers can, and this would be the idea, the Lakers can rebuild around them in the offseason if LeBron is off the books. Yeah. Now, it'd be a challenge because if Austin continues playing this well and suddenly he's making like $40 million, that's where it gets tough to build around those guys. But we'll see ultimately what it looks like. We're 3 games in, and we have a long way to go. And I have a feeling all season long, every time Austin has a good game, it's going to be give him a max. Every time he has a bad game, especially coming off a 51-point game, every time he has a bad game, it's going to be SMH. This dude's not worth $30 million. That type of conversation all season long. Everything he does will immediately turn to this is how much he should get in free agency because of what he just did right now. We have to see the season play out. And a big piece of it, I think, is going to be what does he do in the playoffs? Does he exercise some of the demons that we saw last year or not? Because that's going to be a big factor too in what they ultimately do. Let's see what else. Okay. We got another super chat here. Appreciate it. Said, I have Lakers at Bucks tickets. That's the rough one. That we saw that game on the schedule when it first got released. That's the one I wouldn't be feeling super good about. Nothing obviously written in stone. Like you may wind up seeing all the guys play, but that's a long travel second night of a back-to-back. It's like a 4-hour flight, I believe, from New Orleans all the way up to Milwaukee. And so that's the 14th and the 15th. That's probably right around when we're expecting to see LeBron back. But it could be after that. You know, I wouldn't assume LeBron is back for that. But they're playing the night before in New Orleans. And that's the last game of a long road trip. Second night of a back-to-back on the road. Yeah. I have a tough time with that. Will the Lakers, do you think the Lakers will get healthy or they'll just be an injured team all year? First of all, good luck on that game in Milwaukee. I hope you wind up getting to see everybody. Always a trap game for teams when it's the last game of a long road trip already, but then second night of a back-to-back with long travel between. I mean, look, there's 24 hours between the start time on both those games. And so you don't, 2.5 hours for an NBA game. Then afterwards, you shower, you do your post-game stuff. So figure 7 p.m. Central Time start. They're not finishing the game until, let's call it 9:30 Central Time. By the time, they're probably not getting out of the building until closer to 11. By the time you finish all your post-game stuff and all of that, then you go travel to the airport. Then you get on the plane. Then it's a 4-hour flight. Then you get to the hotel. We're talking 5 a.m., maybe something like that. 5 a.m., get to the hotel. And then you have a game at 7 p.m. and you got to try to recuperate and relax as much as you can. That's tough. And that's the last game of a long 5-game road trip. That's not the type of scenario where teams are usually super eager to play all their guys. Again, nothing set in stone, but just given the schedule, I'd be a little concerned about that one. As far as will they get healthy or will they be injured all year? I mean, ask the basketball gods on that one, right? We never know, right? We never know. Are guys going to be healthy or not? Sometimes you get a season like the Pelicans did last year where you were just decimated. Every player seemed to be injured. Other times you get a season where your team stays pretty healthy. OKC stayed pretty healthy last season, and it matters. It matters. The Minnesota Timberwolves had their starters, I think, logged more minutes on the floor together, their starting 5, than any other starting 5 in the NBA. I know the Knicks were right there as well, but I think they did have a few injuries here and there. But that kind of stuff matters. But there's not really any, we can say certain players are injury prone, but sometimes it's just bad luck on the injury front. Do the Lakers win today? They are a 2.5-point underdog right now to the Blazers tonight. The Lakers obviously will be playing on heavy legs. I think it's not going to be easy. The Blazers also on second night of a back-to-back, but they were in LA last night against the Clippers. And I pointed this out over on Lakers Nation a little bit ago. I think the Blazers burned a bad shooting night on the Clippers. And not that they chose to do it. I think sometimes you just have an off night, but usually you see regression at some point. They shot like 37% from the field last night and were a poor 3-point shooting team last night. So could we see regression kick in a positive way for them tonight? I think it's a tough game. for the Lakers, given that they only have 5 actual NBA rotation players that they can play tonight. So I'm not going into it expecting a Lakers win, but I wasn't necessarily expecting it last night either. So never say never. And against Minnesota, well, that's where it's tough because Minnesota next week on Wednesday, or in a couple days, on Wednesday, Minnesota's missing Anthony Edwards. Now that's at Minnesota. So again, the Lakers will still be missing a good chunk of their team. No LeBron, no Luka, at least. It's more of a toss-up, though, with Anthony Edwards also out. If Ant was not out, we'd say, okay, this is going to be a real tough one for LA. It's still going to be tough in Minnesota, but no Anthony Edwards because he's out for probably a couple weeks here with this hamstring thing. Maybe it becomes a bit more of a toss-up. All right. Playoffs matter most, and Austin Reaves has been underwhelming. What? In the playoffs? Are we sure? We sure about that? Last year, yes. And he will tell you that he was awful in the playoffs. He'll tell you that. He told me that. But Austin Reaves' career, 46% from the field, 38% from three in the postseason, 89% at the free throw line in the postseason for his career. We saw, basically look at it this way. With Reaves, we saw 2 series. Now, it's 2 years in a row, so of course those are going to stick out. But we saw a total of 10 games where I could say he didn't play at a particularly high level. And he was very frustrated with himself last year, did suffer an injury midway through, but doesn't really like people having that conversation because he doesn't want any kind of excuse. He knows he didn't perform last year the way he needed to. So shot 32% from three last year, 41% from the field, struggled. The year before that, 48%, but 27% from three. Again, 5-game sample size. Assists were fine, but you look at last year, 14 turnovers compared to 18 assists. That's not a big enough deficit there. What we needed was more like 7 turnovers against Denver in the Western Conference Finals compared to 21 assists. Against Denver, shot 55% from the field, shot 56% from three. Even look, the first series only shot 34% from three, but that was actually really good in that series and helped to close out game 1 against the Grizzlies. And if you look here, so we've got 1 year, total of 18 games where he played pretty well for his first experience in the playoffs. Played pretty well. 18 games. Last 2 years, 10 games total, hasn't quite been up to par, not up to his standard, certainly. And especially this last year. This last year especially was down. But when we just say, well, Austin Reaves can't play well in the playoffs, I don't think that's really accurate because then we're only talking about last year, maybe the year before. That's a little bit more questionable. But omitting the prior 18 games of playoff experience that he had in order to say that he's not a good playoff player. Now, again, he does need to improve on last year. It does create a lot of question marks, but I do think it's you're picking and choosing stats a little bit if we just say his only playoff numbers are this year and maybe we want to sneak last year's in. Again, over the course of his career, he shot fairly well in the playoffs. On paper, when we think about could he be the type of player that could struggle come playoff time? The game gets more physical. There's less calls. More players are locked in. And so athleticism becomes that much more important in order to create space and separation. So all of those things, kind of like what we see with D'Angelo Russell, all of those things would suggest that Austin is the kind of player that could struggle in the playoffs. But I just don't know that the numbers fully bear out that he's just a bad playoff performer. Again, last year, absolutely. And he would be the first one to tell you that. But I don't know that we can necessarily say that he's a bad playoff player. And that's part of why the playoffs this year are going to matter so much for him. It's going to be a big part of the conversation, what he's going to get on this next contract. The playoffs do matter, They do matter more than the regular season, but how much? And if the playoffs matter more, we can't just say, well, the playoffs this last year and sweep away everything else when it comes to playoff time. Yeah, I mean, like, G-Dog, he can't play good in the playoffs. Tell you, the numbers have shown otherwise. Showed he has played good, just not consistently. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can conclusively say, well, he's just not a good playoff performer. It's possible. Maybe that's ultimately where we land. I'm just saying we have a sample size of 18 games where he was pretty darn good. And then we have a sample size of 10 games, certainly 5 games last year, where he was not as good. So we'll see. Oh, and then this is another one. Grizzlies and Golden State Warriors were ass. Okay. That's where we're really picking and choosing stats. That's where we're so locked in on one side of a conversation, one side of an argument, that our way to combat any evidence that doesn't support the side that we're locked in on is just to dismiss that. And we see that happen all the time in discourse in a lot of different areas, obviously quite a bit in politics, the fake news or whatever, right? Whatever you're going to say to dismiss what it is. We see it all the time in sports though, too. Like a reporter comes out with a story that isn't favorable to a particular player or fan or fan base or team or whatever. And fans of that player or team will immediately say, oh, well, this guy hates our team. He's always saying negative stuff about us, as a way to dismiss it. Oh, no, he has no sources with our organization. Like anybody knows who has what sources, right? That guy doesn't have any sources in the org. He's just making this up. And then that person says something favorable to your team, something that you like to hear. Oh, yeah, this is great, and totally take it at face value. It's what we do, right? We are dismissive of anything that doesn't go along with what our preconceived notion is when we get locked into one side of a conversation or another. I see it happen all the time in the conversations around Rob Pelinka, right? Rob Pelinka, it'll be, well, Rob, and I've talked a lot about the different things that I thought he made mistakes on. We talk about the Russell Westbrook trade. We talk about the way he handled some of the contracts and all the player options that are on deals and things of that nature. So I've been plenty critical of him, but people will also look at it and say, Rob's terrible. Well, what about the Anthony Davis trade? Oh, no. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. It fell in his lap. Oh, okay. What about negotiating the Luka trade? No. Doesn't count. Does not count. That landed in his lap too. Okay. Getting Austin Reaves undrafted. Nope. Does not count. Reaves pushed his way. Rob had nothing to do with it. Like, we're picking and choosing what we accept and what we dismiss based on whether it goes along with whatever we already think about that person, that player, that thing. And I think that kind of thinking can be dangerous because it closes you off to a lot of information that's important to understand a more well-rounded look at a particular topic. And again, that goes beyond sports. That's just generally looking at things around the world. Sometimes we get sectioned off into our groups, and then we don't really look at things in a truly holistic sense. All right. Yeah, see, Rob really didn't get any of them. I mean, I could tell you for a fact that Rob Pelinka negotiated the hell out of the Luka trade. Now, does it help when the opposing GM says, yeah, you guys interested in Luka? Like, of course that's going to help. But we do a lot of picking and choosing when we land on this person good, this person bad, and then only look at things that support that statement and then dismiss anything that doesn't. All right, let's see what else we've got. Trevor should compile a video of all the fouls. Even then, you won't see it. I was thinking about it. I was honestly thinking about doing that earlier today. I just didn't have time to do it. The Kings were, I went through some of the film. The Kings were awful defensively. They were really bad. And so people will latch on to like, oh, the free throws. The Kings were scrambling, trying to do anything they could to stop the Lakers pick and roll. And a lot of times they just kept fouling and getting beat and fouling. It was rough. Let's go. What do you hope to see with the future of the Lakers? What do I hope to see? Obviously success. Hope to see fun basketball. I'd like to see more guys that are like Austin Reaves in that they're homegrown, right? Like he's the one guy that's a Laker right now that we could say, okay, that's our guy. That's the guy. Because homegrown players seem to just, there's that extra attachment that fans will have to them. Of course, we saw it with Kobe, right? I know the Lakers technically didn't draft Kobe, but they had Kobe from day one. He played all of his NBA basketball as a Laker. And so you got to see him as a kid, struggling the air balls in the playoffs and all that as a youngster. Now, and then he's growing and getting better and better and coming into his own. And you got to watch that whole process all the way throughout his entire career, all the way until the end. And in that incredible 60-point finale that he had. And there's something special. There's something very connective about that with a fan base. And so, and I hope this for fans of a lot of teams that we get to see players wind up someplace and stay there and get to stay there their entire career. Because again, that connection, Dirk with the Mavs, right? So why are Bucks fans so cagey about Giannis? Because he's their guy, right? He's our guy. We watch him when he's a skinny kid. And now look what he is. And now he's a MVP and winning us a championship and all these things. Of course, you don't want to let him go. There's that extra attachment, that extra buy-in to that journey. And so for the Lakers and for a lot of teams, my hope is that we do get to see more teams develop that homegrown talent and be able to hang on to them and build that special relationship with the fans. Let's go here. Given the All-Star game will take place in LA, who do you think will make the All-Star three-point contest this season from the Lakers? Rui, Luka, Reaves. Reaves is a good pick if he's high enough in percentage, three-point percentage. I'm sure it's up now. We're, again, 3 games in, but it was a little low. Last I looked, I think after 2 games, it was a little bit low below his career average, but I think he was 6 for 10 last night, so I'm sure it's come back. It'll bounce around a lot here in the early going. Rui has shot really well from 3. He's a bit slower on the release from 3. So I wonder how that would factor into a 3-point competition. But he does have 2 seasons in a row of being above 40% from deep. So maybe he wouldn't be a bad pick either to take part in the 3-point competition. Though we do have to remember, it's in LA, but it's at Intuit Dome. It's not at, I want to call it Staples. It's not at Crypto. So will they prioritize Clippers players because of that? Not that they always do. They tend to find, shooters if they can get them, but just something to consider there. But yeah, I think Rui would make some sense. Dodgers, baby. Yep. Let's go. Let's get one tonight. Austin could be good in the 3-point shootout. Sure. Although I went and it was really funny. There are channels out there that they will, it's almost like it's like the Skip Baylessification of sports media. Like they make their whole existence about hating one particular thing, like hating one particular player, right? There's anti-LeBron channels out there, stuff just like Skip Bayless, right? Made a whole career off of hating LeBron James and making that a thing. And when I went to Austin's skills camp that he did with his brother, with Spencer last year, he did a 3-point shootout with his brother. And it was funny. I don't remember what it was, but there was a channel that took my video of the 3-point shootout, and Austin came back and won at the end, and started off slow, and his brother was beating him. And then Austin came back and won on the last shot and showed just the part where Austin was losing, and then used that to rip Austin to shreds and cut him winning it. And all these kids swarming him in like this heartwarming moment. Like these kids are all swarming him and cheering, and Austin won the competition over his brother. By the way, people don't know, his brother is one of the best 3-point shooters in Europe. He's a legit shooter. So his brother beating him for part of that competition is not like it's not like his brother is just, is an accountant or something like that. His brother's a professional basketball player and one of the best 3-point shooters in Europe, which was kind of funny. People latched onto that, but I saw him compete in a 3-point shootout. He didn't do very well initially, but then he won it right at the end and was able to catch back up. So would he be good in a 3-point shootout for real? Maybe. I think he could work with his brother. I think he could get ready for it. How realistic is it for the Lakers to keep their picks for another superstar in the offseason for 2027? How true is that? Who could it be? I can tell you, I've been told very specifically that there is no 2027 plan for the Lakers. That's not real. They want to win right now. They want to win with LeBron and Luka right now. That's their preference, to win right now. Whether or not they'll be able to accomplish that, we'll see. They want to make sure when the right move comes along, they can make that. But yeah, that's not really, their goal is not to make a move in 2027. Their goal is to go get stuff done now. Now, that said, if there aren't things now that they think will make sense, that will really put them over the top, then keeping the powder dry makes more sense for them. But that's not, the plan isn't, hey, let's wait till 2027 and then do something. Let's go. I mean, you guys can help me out with this. I'm terrible when it comes to player rankings. A lot of people put a lot of thought into player rankings, and this guy is number 6 and this guy's 7. Oh no, wait, now this guy moves up, this guy moves down. It can get interesting and there can be some good analysis, but I don't spend a lot of time on personal player rankings or anything like that. I mean, my just initial thoughts in terms of some of the best third options around the NBA, just bouncing around some different teams. I mean, I guess you'd have to consider Chet. Is he the third option? Is it J-Dub? Which one's the third option there? That's certainly a conversation you could have. If we go to, I mean, Fred VanVleet's hurt. Otherwise, we'd be talking about him with Sengun and Kevin Durant. He's certainly a guy to have that conversation about. The Clippers, obviously Kawhi and Harden are going to be the top 2, but then is it Ivica Zubac, right? Is he your third guy there? That's pretty interesting, right? He had a great season last year. The Wolves have Ant and Randall, I would assume, are your top 2, but you also have Gobert. Is Gobert your third guy? Is Randall your third guy? Either way. I mean, Draymond Green being the third guy with the Warriors, that's pretty damn good. Like there's some good third guys around the NBA. It's Kyrie and AD, and then is Cooper Flag your third guy in Dallas? Like there's some really good ones. Fox and Wemby by name value would be the number 1 and 2, but then Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. Stephon Castle's looked pretty good so far. He could be a really good third guy. Of course, with the Lakers, it's Austin. There's some interesting third guys around the NBA. And again, you can make arguments for or against any of these guys. These are just some of them. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and then Darius Garland, who's hurt right now. He's the third guy. There's a lot of them. Unfortunately, a lot of injuries around the NBA too. How about Des Bane effectively being the third guy in Orlando right now? Like you have Des, you have Franz Wagner, you have Paolo Banchero. Des Bane's pretty damn good. So there's a lot of guys out there. Aaron Gordon. Yes, I should have mentioned Aaron Gordon. Oh, man, he's been awesome. Devin Smith would argue Jonathan Kuminga is the third guy right now over Draymond. Wow. I'm surprised by that. But he has been good so far. Is Norman Powell a third guy? Yeah, I mean, he was great last night, but Tyler Hero's out too. Why did the Grizzlies trade Bane? Because they felt like they were getting a good trade package. And I think they had figured out that Bane, Ja, and Jaren Jackson wasn't going to go anywhere. So they said, okay, if we're going to break this trio up, Let's make sure we get a really good deal. And I thought they did. Asset-wise, they got a really good deal for Des Bane. I understand why they made the move. Why his brother have a different accent? Whose brother? Who are we talking about? When you go rewatch Lakers games, can you take a look at LaRavia curling off a screen on a catch and shoot? Sure. I'll keep an eye out for that. I imagine he's going to have to do that a lot tonight. This is something that's kind of strikes me as strange. That makes sense for the general perception. No egos in the Warriors, unlike other teams like the Lakers when LeBron comes back. What are we talking about? What's that referencing? LeBron? Like, does LeBron have an ego in general? Sure. I mean, dude's a billionaire. He's been told he's the chosen one. He's been the guy since he was, 12? Something like that, right? His whole life. He's been the guy with everybody telling him how great he is. I'm sure he's got an ego. But on the basketball court, I think that's dismissing how drastically he changed his game last year when Luka arrived and how much he changed his role on the team, especially defensively. He really took over like an Anthony Davis-esque role. Like, people assume, LeBron just has to pound the air out of the ball all day, every day, needs the ball in his hands. No, he's done that because that's what his teams have needed him to do. When Luka arrived, we saw him take a very different stance. You remember, go back to Miami, LeBron, with Wade. At first, it was, no, this is still Wade's team. This is Wade's. He's going to do his thing. And then over time, we kind of saw, but LeBron's better. We need this to be, LeBron, we need this to be your team, and you go do it. It's not like I'm the man, everybody get out of my way and give me the ball. He's always been more, what's going to work best for the team. And I think because of that, people have missed how diverse his skill set really is and his ability to fit in and do whatever a team needs him to do. Now, if he comes back in a few weeks and it says, get out of my way, Luka, and I need the ball more and all that kind of stuff, okay, that's a different conversation. But based on what we saw last season, it was very much, hey, I'm going to take on this role. I'm going to be a spot-up player. I'm going to be a cutter. I'm going to play more off-ball. And he did all that stuff just fine. So I didn't see like a ego situation on the floor with LeBron. Now, off the court, again, does the guy have an ego in general? I think it would be safe to say. I would be shocked if he didn't, right? Yeah. Am I worried about heavy legs with the Lakers today? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the Blazers have an army of wings that are really good defensively. Toumani Camara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant's been playing well. Didn't shoot as well last night. And then add in Matisse Thybulle. Yep. That won't be easy. But yeah, everyone in the NBA is an ego. You wouldn't make it otherwise. Yeah, most of the guys in the NBA, at the very least, up to the point where they got to college, were probably the best player on every team they played on. Or at least one of them, among the very, very best. And the true stars in the NBA, yeah, they've been the best player on every team they've ever played on for their whole life. That, I would think, that would create some kind of an ego. Yeah, there are a lot of injuries right now. People are talking about it in the chat. Is that unlucky? Is that something about the way guys are training? Is that, the NBA's contention from a couple of years ago that maybe guys aren't training enough during the offseason? It's really hit the league. Now, fortunately, we've still gotten some great basketball, and we've seen some great games, but it has been a lot. How often do you visit the Lakers subreddit? I usually check in just to see what the general conversation is around the team, usually about maybe every other day, probably about every other day. At least I'll check in and see what kind of the general conversation is around the team. Just see what people are talking about. But I do the same thing on X, on Twitter. Just kind of keeping an eye out. I check Real GM all the time as well, bounce around just to see what the different conversations are like taking place around the team. Of course, going on to on Lakers Nation's comment section and everything like that on the YouTube channel, and just kind of keeping an eye on everything and seeing what the general conversation around the team is about. See what people are talking about. Go from there. How many years do you give Wemby before he fully takes over the league? Have you seen anything like him? No, and it could be happening right now. Could be happening right now. Yeah. Could be happening right now. I've never seen anything like him. He moves in a way that we've never seen before. He does stuff that nobody's ever seen before. He's one step to the rim from the 3-point line. I mean, that's insane. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what you do about him. I don't know. I mean, he's really started to figure out how to play physically. And that was the one saving grace for Wemby in the past was, well, he's going to jack up a bunch of threes this year. And he's 22 years old. This year, his 3-point attempts went from 8.8 last season to 3.7 this year. And I said it last year, like, he shoots well enough from three. He shot 35% last season, but I felt like he was kind of letting teams off the hook with taking all those threes when where he could really just crush teams was in the paint. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. Again, down to 3.3 3-point attempts per game, despite the fact, or 3.7 3-point attempts, despite the fact that his overall shots have gone up by 3 per game. He's at 21.7 shots per game, and he's not shooting nearly as many threes anymore. So he added 3 more threes, or 3 more shot attempts, to his shot diet so far on the season, and took away 5 3-point attempts. His 3-point rate has fallen dramatically. And what he's doing is just crushing teams in the paint right now. He's averaging 10 free throws a game because he's crushing teams in the paint. He's figured that out. And I don't know what teams are going to do. I don't know. Like, how do you even deal with that? The dude's what is he? How tall is he? 9'7"? Something like that. What is he? 7'5", I think, really. He has 18 blocks in 3 games. Total. 18 blocks in 3 games. There are only, not including the Spurs, because he's on that team, there are only 4 NBA teams that have more blocks than that. 4 NBA teams have more blocks than Wemby in total on the season. That's pretty insane. Pretty insane. How many fouls has he committed? He's committed 13 fouls on the season. So a little over 4 per game. Hack a Wemby? Well, he's like a 78% free throw shooter, isn't he? What's he at this season? I know he's only 3 games in. No, 73%, but for his career, he's 81% from the line. So that's just free points. The math on that doesn't math. Who would be the ultimate running partner for Wemby? Giannis. And that's terrifying. The idea of putting the 2 of them together. That's terrifying. Luka, sure. Yikes. Yep, he'll shut down your entire offense. Teams are scared to shoot anywhere near the rim because you can reach so far. You remember Dawson in Street Fighter 2 that had the extendo arms? He was so cool and could just could hit you from like all the way across the screen. That's like Wemby. You feel like you've got all this space to take a shot, and then where'd that arm come from? It's Reed Richards. It's Mr. Fantastic. It's crazy. Hopefully he stays healthy. See Zion gone by the deadline. The Pelicans could decide to move on. He's got to get healthy, though, because teams won't want to take the risk unless they feel relatively confident that he is healthy and is going to stay healthy. All right, I need to pay a bill real quick here. I almost forgot to run this. And I will be right back. Give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed. This is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin. All right, everybody. Again, you can use the link in the description to check out Sleeper. They do a phenomenal job. Great presenting sponsor for our channel. They've been absolutely fantastic. So, of course, we really do appreciate them. All right. We'll do a few more. Do a few more questions here. Who would you start tonight? I'm assuming that means for the Lakers. I'd be starting the only 5 guys that I have as legit rotation players in the NBA. And that is Reaves, LaRavia, Vando, Rui, and Ayton. And then after that, it's, hey, Dalton Connect. Hope you go on a heater. And maybe Chris Magnon. Give him another look. Looked very comfortable in 3 minutes last night. Groot, another good way to a good comp for Wemby. The Lakers need to aim for a low-risk, high-reward trade. Rob Williams and Thibault for Vincent, Kleba, and LaRavia. I know they like Jake, and Lakers were very excited to go get him because they think he can be a two-way player for them, meaning plays both sides of the ball. But Rob Williams and Thibault, I like both guys. I've talked a lot about them over the summer. Rob Williams is just today got assigned to the G League club. I can't remember Portland's G League team's name, but just got assigned there, and we'll do some rehab there, and then we'll return. But the man has barely played over the last few years. He's incredible. When you go pull his clips and everything, you look at what he's done, he's amazing. He does phenomenal stuff out there, but very rarely available. And so I think you really have to factor that in. He is an expiring contract. And then I like Matisse Thybulle as a wing defender just fine. But the question specifically for the Lakers or any team really becomes, well, it's not just, is that a good deal for us? Could these guys help our team? The question is, what else could we do with those expiring contracts? Is there another move that we could make? Or are we going to do this and get a couple of guys, get a oft-injured big and an oft-injured wing who, if they're both healthy, they're good and they would fit. But then a week later, 2 weeks later, an opportunity pops up. Suddenly, oh, wow, Luka is available, right? Something like that happens. I'm not saying Luka because that's the craziest trade we've ever seen in the NBA. Not saying another Luka level trade would become available, but something that you didn't foresee pops up. And, oh, shoot, we already traded our expirings to get a couple of guys that we think are good role player pieces. You know what I mean? I think that's the concern for the Lakers. And it's a fair point because, I was very frustrated with them last summer before last, that they didn't do anything. Lakers fans in general, very frustrated, so mad that they effectively sat out the offseason, right? Didn't do anything other than draft a couple of players. But then that meant when the Luka trade surprisingly popped up, they were in a position to make that move. So I think that's an important thing to remember. It's long-term thinking, and it's not always easy to do, to not make the move right now in the hope that you can make the move in the future, because you don't know for sure that move in the future is going to come along. But you really don't want to be in a position where the move that you need comes along and you can't make it anymore because you made some marginal move earlier. Vector, have you checked out any of the exhibition games on the projected top guys of the 2026 draft? I haven't. I've fallen behind just on watching NBA games. So I'm trying to I meant to watch the Blazers game against the Clippers from last night today, and I haven't gotten to it yet. So I'm trying to keep up as much as I can with NBA. I have not. I very much rely on the draft experts to tell me about the college guys and all that. If I happen to be free and there's a game on, of course I'll put it on. But I'm trying to focus in more on just the NBA games and trying to keep up. I'm trying to make sure that I see at least a little bit of every team. And I can tell you guys, I've talked about it on here before, a huge help. It is the NBA League Pass, the way they do the 40-minute condensed games. Those are so helpful. Way better than just watching the highlights in terms of actually getting a sense of what happens in a game, what the flow of it is, and understanding what teams do, what their tendencies are. So that's been really big for me, is being able to use that. But I have a hard, I'm behind on the last couple of days. I have a hard enough time keeping up on NBA, which it's impossible for any one person to watch every single game and really keep up with all of it. But I try to at least check in on every team and get a sense of what they're doing. And Miami is the next team on my list. I need to figure out what's going on in Miami, because there's some buzz about what they're doing offensively. They're not setting screens anymore. I was going to, if I had time, dig deep into their offense and do a breakdown for the bulletin today. And I didn't have time to do it. But maybe it's something I'll sink my teeth into tomorrow. But they're next up on my teams to watch. But that takes up the ball, in addition to basketball bulletin, of course, Lakers Nation, front office show. Keith and I took a day off from front office today, and I'm still behind. And of course, the Lakers Collective now we've got once a week too. So keeping up with all of that and trying to get eyes on that many games, it's an impossible endeavor to try to go and watch college games too. Can they sign Beasley? I'm assuming it means the Lakers. No, they can't. They can't sign anybody right now. They are about 1.1 million below the hard cap at the first apron. They've hard capped themselves at the first apron with the moves that they've made. And so there's not enough room. Even if they sign somebody to a veteran minimum, they don't have enough space below that hard cap to sign anybody. That will change. I believe it's in January. That'll change because the veteran minimum prorates over the course of the season. And when that happens, they could sign a 15th player. They do have an open roster spot. But as of right now, the Lakers, and they're not the only ones, there's a number of teams in this situation, but the Lakers cannot sign anybody. A rookie, a veteran, doesn't matter. Anybody cannot sign anybody to an NBA contract right now without making some type of other move to clear space or whatever. And no, Bronny, I forgot to mention Bronny. To add him in. Am I going live tonight? Yep. Yeah, I'll be live during the game as well as for the post game. We'll do the play-by-play, do all that. I will definitely be around. And hang on. And you never know. Look, a lot of pessimism going into last night's game against the Kings. Lakers pull out a win. Never know. I'm going to be doing tonight. That's right. It's like a party. Tonight, the Lakers are not favored again. They're very shorthanded. Who knows? Maybe Dalton Connect seizes the opportunity and goes on a heater. Just never know. It's like a party. Big shout out to Rick Weiss, my I think it was junior year of high school chemistry teacher. God, I was bad at that. So bad. I think I got a C-, but a good guy. And a fun teacher. And he used to say that all the time. Kid would be doing something he's not supposed to. And kids would mess around just to hear him say it. He'd look at him, he'd point, he'd go, boom, detention. He'd put their name on the board. He goes, see, you get to join all these other people. It's like a party. Anyway, but he was always very, very easygoing guy, was joking around with us a lot and stuff like that. And so nobody took him super serious. It wasn't like he was mad the way he said it. And so kids were always wanting to hear him say, it's like a party. So they would, kids would get in trouble on purpose just to get detention so they could get him to say it. So I stole that from him. Excited for the new Lakers Collective channel, even though I already listened to all of you, but can never get enough Lakers. Yeah, we're excited too. We're, all three of us are very, very busy. And so we've been talking about how do we approach this? Is this something we could do? And then decided, hey, if we did an hour a week, we could probably clear enough time in our schedules to do that and to sit down and kind of hash things out from the Lakers side of things. And so Jovan, Jason, and I came together and said, okay, let's give this a go. And we're really excited, very excited about the initial response to Lakers Collective. And we'll keep it rolling. We'll do another one this week on Thursday. We go live Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We'll cut up some of the episodes from there and post things as standalone videos and stuff like that. But so far, good response to it. All right, everybody. I should run along here before we get to the games tonight and all that kind of stuff. But I do appreciate everybody for joining. This was a little bit of an impromptu thing. Just wanted to talk a little bit about injuries around the NBA. And as we tend to, we got into, a deeper Lakers conversation, which tends to follow me, even if we are not a Lakers channel here. We cover the whole league, but nonetheless, appreciate all of you guys for joining. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you do subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin. A great way to help keep us growing and keep us moving forward. So appreciate all of you so much. If you're a Lakers fan, we'll see you tonight for Lakers Blazers. That's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, and I'll be live over on Lakers Nation for the game, doing some play-by-play, taking questions, comments, all that kind of stuff. It's like a party. Thanks again, everybody. Oh, did I miss something? What's the barometer for the injury signings Memphis got a chance to do? Yeah, Keith and I will get into that more tomorrow on Front Office. When did I start taking over Lakers Nation? The YouTube channel was more like 2019-ish. It was just kind of a gradual thing. Started posting the podcast there because I was doing the podcast for a while and then started posting it on the channel and then eventually started posting more and saying, hey, this YouTube thing's kind of cool. And now it's most of what I do. Okay, but that's a longer story that someday I'll share. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.